Hey everyone, for this week's video I wanted to break down the mechanics and rules around Paradrops on the Finnish server. If this is your first time here, this channel focuses on multiplayer flight sims, especially IL-2, so if you're interested in that, please check out my other videos and consider subscribing to help support the channel. So first thing, why do Paradrops? There are two main reasons to do them. One is they push the front lines, and the second thing is that they resupply tanks. So just like when you take a Ju-52 and fly to an airfield and despawn, you supply the airplanes there. With Paradrops, you do the same thing with the tanks. So first reason was they help push the front lines, but how much do they push the front lines? Now, if we look at these values here, you can see that a lot of them have negative values. So if you destroy a rocket launcher, you do 52 damage or objective value to the sector, dugouts are 500, and ships are a whole bunch. Now, Paradrops add 750, so they aren't as much as a ship, but they're more than a dugout, so they're worth something. So now that we know why they're important, let's figure out how to actually do it. You need to grab a Ju-52. You have to grab the ones that come out of the rear airfields. If you grab the ones from the air resupply spawn, those won't work. You have to make sure you have the paratroopers equipped, and you probably want to grab a rear turret. You don't need that much fuel because, this plane carries a ridiculous amount of fuel, and there is a skin consideration here. Both the Russians and the Germans get this plane. So typically, you might see Russian players taking the ambulance version of the Ju-52, or they take the Ritovin one because it's all red. But they can take any skin they want, so just keep that in mind. Now, we're taking our Ju-52 and we're going to fly to the Paradrop zone, which you can see here, which is this blue zone that's circled, and you cannot see it on the Russian side or the enemy side. But if I were to switch over to Russian, then I would be able to see it there. So now that we know how to do this, let's define what must happen in order for the Paradrop to be successful. You have to land 10 paratroopers in the blue smoke for Germany or the red smoke for the Soviets. They have to be alive by the time they reach the ground. So that means they can be killed in midair and then they won't count. And the 10 paratroopers have to be on the ground within 1.5 kilometers of the actual smoke. So if it's a very windy day on the server, they can land adrift and too far away from the target because the wind pushed them away. So right here, I see the smoke and I'm turning toward the target. Now I'm slowing myself down. The smoke's right there to my 11 o'clock low. And when I feel like I'm close enough, I press the B button. The same button you press bombs is the same button you press to drop paratroopers. And you don't want to be too high because you don't want the paratroopers to be blasted in the air, but you need to make sure you're not dropping too low so they don't get wasted by hitting the ground too fast. And it's recommended, or I recommend, to turn tightly around the smoke. That way you make sure that they are actually getting within the smoke area, which I'm doing here. And there's the paratrooper, first one. They actually come out pretty slow. They're not instant. Like I said, there's 12 of them and 10 need to actually land in there. So as these guys come down, we can talk about the last couple things that you should know. The smoke can sometimes spawn in forests, so sometimes it's really hard to see. Sometimes the smoke just won't spawn at all because it's buggy. It doesn't happen too often, but it can happen. So if you ever run into a scenario where there is no smoke, you just can't guesstimate and drop. It won't work. The smoke actually has to be there. The smoke can also appear in lakes and rivers. And if that's the case, you can drop. The paratroopers won't die when they hit the water. So keep that in mind. We do not know if a drop is going to be successful until they actually touch down on the ground, and then you'll get an actual message. So that's really important to know. It's kind of a long wait, and you can see with this drop here that the wind kind of carried them over and pushed them out. So this, to me, seems like it's kind of far. And then we actually do see that it was a successful drop. So you can see the parachutes just are collapsing. I'm looking at chat, waiting for the message to come up. I'm turning away from target and go back to the airfield, and the paratroopers drop successfully. If you found this helpful, please hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to help the channel. Thank you.
Paradrop.